My name's Sabrina Romanov. Super excited to be speaking today with Aaron Litherland. His background is in healthcare, nursing, and clinical informatics, but lately he's been digging into AI to build mobile apps, and his backstory is super amazing. Can't wait to dig in. Aaron, would love to hear your intro and backstory real quick.
I'm a nurse. I started nursing in healthcare since 2000 and transitioned over to clinical informatics, which is basically a bridge between the clinician and the technical world. Over the past couple of weeks, I've been building a social media app, but never have built anything of this stature with no coding experience. I have a TikTok channel. I've been doing that for about 2.5 years on artificial intelligence. So I'm a huge enthusiast when it comes to AI. I think there's going to be a huge impact. I think it's going to get much, much bigger in 2025.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what brought you to building a social mobile app, and how's it going with using AI to build it?
It's been interesting because it kind of all started out the Mark Cuban challenge to basically build a mobile application that integrates with Blue Sky. There are a lot of advantages on building on that platform specifically. And I ironically had not seen that video, but the day that it came out, I actually had created a idea. Well, if TikTok's going away, what if I could just make an app? So I made a demo and posted a video. And then someone said, hey, Mark Cuban is looking for a video or an app. So I said, okay, well, why not just shoot him the video? And I sent him over the TikTok, and it's just been interesting ever since. If anything comes of it, I don't know. There's been some back and forth conversation, but it definitely sparked a fire under my butt to get things going. And so I've been working on that for about 2 weeks now. So it went from an idea one day of just kind of like, can I make a demo mobile app? And now I'm full blown integrated into Blue Sky. So that's just interesting.
And you had zero technical experience when you started doing this?
I mean, other than informatics, where it's just specifically healthcare, deep into technical expertise, no. Nope.
That's awesome. And just to set the stage for those who don't know, like that viral Mark Cuban video, it was around the time like the TikTok ban was about to happen. And then Mark Cuban was like, I want to invest in companies that are building essentially a TikTok replacement, but on the Blue Sky protocol. So you'll be able to like take your followers with you. So did you get in touch with Mark Cuban? Like, were you guys exchanging messages?
Yeah, we probably for the past couple of weeks, in all transparency, I think first it was a like and a repost and a follow, and he has 125 people that he follows.
That's
so I'm
crazy.
Like, this is crazy. I got 4,700 followers. And so I thought it was kind of cool to just have that validation that someone thought, hey, this is kind of cool. And I thought, man, how awesome would it be to build an app that took off building it with AI on what I've been envisioning the past couple of years. So people have looked at me like I've had 3 heads, and I'm telling them what you think is 2 months or 2 to 10 years away is maybe 2 to 10 weeks. So we definitely have to be prepared for that.
Cool. So would love to dig in. So like, what tools are you using? Would you mind sharing your screen and kind of walking us through your development process?
Yeah, absolutely. So I use Cursor AI, and let me just share my screen right here real quick. So this is Cursor. It looks extremely complicated. I know working with developers a little bit about stuff like having documentation. So when someone looks at your coding, they know what you've done and kind of how to follow along. But Sabrina, I had heard you talk about backup and backup often. I did not back up for about 4 days.
No. No.
But it was fine because there's a cool thing about Cursor is you have your restore, you have your reject, but I don't recommend it because it makes it that much harder to get back to where you were. So would you like me to go over Cursor and kind of what it does in a
just a high level for those folks who aren't familiar with it? Also love to hear your decision process. Like, how did you even arrive at Cursor? Did you evaluate any other AI coding tools, and how did you decide like this was the right fit for your project?
Yeah, absolutely. How did I get to Cursor? Really interesting. I was watching someone on TikTok that had said, use Replit if you've never coded before. And this is before Lovable and other products came out. And Cursor's one that if you know how to develop, you can develop an application. It's really good assistant, but for someone who's never developed, use Replit. And I would recommend that as well. But I took that as a challenge. So I got on Composer, which is inside of Cursor, which is a chat that does things for you. And I just prompted it to build a stock app that was built on agents. And what AI agents are is you can have multiple AI agents that connect to each other to make decisions and kind of do things automatically. So that's what I built. And I did that in about 3 hours. And I was able to use some Microsoft agents and be able to talk to it about the stock market and have a landing page and all kinds of things. So I started just making some videos on that. So the reason I went to Cursor was because someone said I couldn't do it in Cursor. So I said, I'm going to do it. And my theory now is prompting is important, but as we move forward, prompting, I think, is becoming less and less important as I've been using the newer model like O3 and ChatGPT, that it starts to understand you a little bit more. But when it comes to Cursor, your prompting has to be on point. And if it's not, then you just start going down different rabbit holes. So a lot of learning curve. And that's kind of how I got into using a Cursor is just kind of a challenge for me.
So that's pretty impressive. So just within your first day of using Cursor, you were able to build, sounds like an AI trading agent to talk about the stock market. Did that surprise you? Like, did you think that you would get that far in the first day?
I don't know that it necessarily surprised me just because of all of the prompting I have been practicing for 2 years. So I think it wasn't really a surprise for me. No, it wasn't, just because prompting was something that I was really, really focused on for a good year with ChatGPT to get the best outputs I could possibly get. So I actually wasn't as surprised as you would think I would be. But I've had a friend who just started ChatGPT and went to Cursor, and I've never seen him so frustrated in his life. So Replay is definitely a very good tool to start with. Cursor, if you're really good at prompting, you can figure it out. And so
a lot of people do ask me, like, how do you build mobile apps with AI? I guess there aren't as many tutorials on that. So could you just share, like, literally how you set this up as a mobile app? I have zero coding experience, but I'm very good at prompting. How do you set up Cursor so it starts to build you a mobile app?
I actually just used this over here, this Composer, and I just asked it, like I would ChatGPT, how do I set this up? So you just make a folder, and then this is the name of my folder, and it's blank. And this over here will throw things over to the blank folder, and that's how you create the application. But I did not know how to use Android Studio, so I just asked it step by step, how do I set it up? How do I do this? How do I do that? And eventually I got to the point where it actually showed up on my screen. That, Sabrina, really did surprise me. I was like, okay, I can do this now. So,
I love that, because I do think people get intimidated by where to start, but you can actually just use the AI chat embedded within Cursor to tell you what to do at every single step.
Yeah, absolutely. I use it like ChatGPT because there are different models you can use, but it comes with Claude, and they just added 4.0 to start doing stuff. Yeah, and it actually does the actions for you. So that's kind of where I've been at, and that's how I got here. So I can kind of go over this if you'd like, or...
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. So as stated, I just did a high-level overview, created a folder, and then I started talking over here to the Composer. I only use the Composer because the Composer takes action for me. And a lot of developers use it to help them. I use this to actually do the work. So I've learned how to prompt with it and what seems to work and what doesn't. Some cool things about it are you can hit @ and you can tag things like documents. So if you wanted to tag documentation, for example, how to connect to Blue Sky, you can connect all that documentation there, and then it will refer to that documentation. And you can do that for all kinds of things, at web, for it to search the web, or whatever you may need for it to solve a problem. And these are all the different types of models that you can use, or all the different types of documents that I've set up. So up here in settings, I want to show that we have our Cursor settings. There's actually some really cool things in here that you can do. Is one, you can use whatever model that you want to use right in here. They just added DeepSeek. You can put your keys in, but they also have features here. And some things I want to point out is YOLO prompt. And I just told it basically to just ask me if it was safe to prompt it. I know now what to do when it kind of tells me, hey, I want to execute on something. But so you can put your YOLO prompt. And what YOLO means is this thing just keeps going and going and going. And you learn to pay attention to it and stop it when you notice, whoa, I don't like that. That's another file. You're creating another copy of something I already have. So you start to learn that, and then you can set rules inside of it, and you can do all kinds of things. But that YOLO is actually pretty cool. The other thing that's really cool about it is you might say, okay, you built that, and let's say it was a web app, and you don't know how to see your web app. It actually will run the command for you to display your application. Say, I don't know how to run this command prompt. Can you either walk me through it or can you run this command prompt? And it's interesting, the feedback I got when I showed that on TikTok is if you can't even do that, then don't be coding. Well, I wasn't showing that I couldn't do it. I was showing that it can do that. So those are some cool things that it can do. It's amazing.
Have you ever had any dead ends where you had to restart the project, or has it been like relatively smooth sailing since the beginning?
I've not had to restart the project at all, but I have had to have hours of conversation only to reject everything. So this is weird, sounds weird, but a couple things. One is there was a research done on artificial intelligence that actually, if you say thanks, if you are polite, it actually gives better outputs, which I found in ChatGPT, which I thought was really interesting to me. The other thing is the length of the conversation, surprisingly, it hasn't degraded as much as I would have expected it to. I mean, we can even look over here and the length of my conversation goes older messages. I mean, this is a very long message. I can start a new chat now where it'll take the summary of my previous message and I can chat and it'll know what I talked about previously. When I'm on a roll, until it starts to just repeat itself, I kind of stick with it. So yeah, I've not had to throw out really anything. I've had to revert one time to my last commit, but other than that, my last time that I went back and backed it up. But other than that, I haven't had to reverse.
And is there like a sample feature you recently implemented so that the audience could kind of see, like, what does it really look like to develop with Cursor? So like you have an idea in mind, this is a feature or a change you want to make in the app, like what was the prompt you used, and then what did Composer do?
Yeah, so the most recent one that I'm doing right now, and I can kind of tell you a little bit about what the social media app is it's called Trend Flick. And when you open the app, there are two pieces of the app that you can toggle back and forth to. And this is just the basic part. The trends are all the posts on Blue Sky. So you're able to see all the posts and you're able to interact. I've not even been on Blue Sky. I've been on my app ever since I built it to go on Blue Sky and interact and test it. The other is the Flicks page. And you can scroll over to the Flicks page, and that's what I'm working on right now. And that is to pull out images and videos from Blue Sky to scroll through like TikTok. And you can also upload to Blue Sky, which will also upload to this application as well. So you can upload videos like you can on TikTok. So the current one that I'm working on is, hi, I want to work on this app. And this is what my app does. So every time that I start a new composer or I'm starting a new feature, I have to explain what the application is, what it's done, what it's supposed to do. Then I ask it to evaluate my documentation, my README, and my code to explain back to me what it sees and what the user will experience. And if I can confirm that it understands and I don't have to clarify anything, then I go from there.
Is there a sample we could look at in your current Composer chat?
Yeah, let me go up to the top right here. So I have an application called Trend Flick, which is built on Blue Sky. And then I put in here, I have Trends page and a Flicks page. And then I tag the screen that it's on, and I want to work with the Flicks and you'll notice I don't even care about my spelling. Paige and I would like to pull blue sky videos that are posted and posts with images to display on Flicks. And so I just tell it what I want, and then I ask it to kind of tell me what it sees, and it'll tell me, and it'll search through my code base and search for keywords, and it gives me that output. So right now I'm kind of in the middle of some errors because I found a redundant file in there, and it went to that file, and I started to notice, hey, you're in the wrong file. So that's what you get from not being a developer and not having some of that understanding. And so then it explains to me what it's going to do. And then all these things are the actions that it's taken.
When you first started, was this intimidating to you? Like looking at all of this text and like the developer speak? Do you have any tips for folks who are kind of going to be brand new to all this?
Yeah, I think if you were to look a year or maybe a year and a half ago, ChatGPT was not big. People knew that it was AI. They knew it was there, but it wasn't being used, as evidenced by how many videos were even watched on my channel when I first started 2.5 years ago. And I am thinking everyone's starting to get used to ChatGPT. And I think if you can understand that basic concept and get your prompts down and get a good understanding, I think that you'll have a really good understanding of kind of how to walk through these processes. If you equate it to when you ask ChatGPT to walk you through how to do something, it is the exact same thing right here. And it does a lot of the actions for you as well if you want it to. So the intimidation factor is just you have to fail and get back up and fail and get back up. But if I could push or drive anything home to people when it comes to artificial intelligence, if you want to stay marketable, if you want to stay relevant in your field or even other fields, I predict that you're going to have to understand artificial intelligence from a user standpoint. Maybe not the technicality in the background, but how do you prompt well? I think that's what's going to keep you marketable in the future. I think we're going to see that in 2025, how we're going to see AI agents come out, and that's going to really blow people's minds.
Yeah, speaking of things that have come out, have you tried the new DeepSeek model or O3 within Cursor? I'm just curious how it performs the Claude 3.5 Sonnet.
So O3 is not in Cursor, but they do have O1. I've tried it, and I have not tried DeepSeek because I just saw that was an update. I haven't really used DeepSeek much, to be honest with you, just because I have a lot of thoughts on OpenAI, but I do know they have an opt-out program. I know they have there's a lot of anonymity, or at least that's what's thrown out there in DeepSeek. I just don't know. But that's not why I haven't used it here. I just saw it. And O1, the only ones that actually do take action are 3.5 Sonnet by Claude and the ChatGPT 4.0. The others don't take actions. They will read through your code base and tell you what you need to do.
So within Cursor, even if you select O1 or O3, you won't be able to use Composer to like create or edit those files automatically?
Right, because I'd be using O1. Oh, I see they do have O3 Mini. So yeah, if I were to use this, it doesn't code for me at all. And that's something that I found out after I put like a $5 or $10 limit on trying those models. And this is $20 a month. Replic's $20 a month when you're looking at the cost. Of course, when you start getting into it as much as I'm getting into it, it's more on your rate limit. But for basic coding and basic learning, it's really inexpensive. And you've talked about the $1 million apps, right? That's been built, right? I mean, it's a gold rush right now. It really is a gold rush right now, but I believe in 26, 27, the gold rush will not be there just because AI is going to be so capable of doing so many things automatically.
And so what's your advice for folks out there who want to do this kind of thing, but they just don't know where to get started? I have a lot of people ask, how do I build AI apps? And I don't really know what else to say besides, follow along my YouTube tutorials. I show how to use Cursor, how to use Lovable, how to use Bolt.new.
Right.
But I think for most people, it's a mental intimidation factor. Like even looking at this, I imagine if you have zero technical background, this looks like a lot. Like what's on your screen right now.
It is a whole lot. Honestly, even to me, I look at it and go, what the heck am I doing? I mean, I want everything to, I did have to manually put in my icons so it shows up on my phone as an app, right? Even that was intimidating to me because like, oh no, it's not doing it for me. I have to do it. But I had it walk me through it. I think the biggest thing is you just need to dive in and you need to take the time, whether that's 30 minutes of your day, an hour of your day, to learn how to do this. This is a really good skill to have, a skill set to have. And if you've been working on prompting, if you've looked at Sabrina's prompts and been practicing and things like that, I would not be intimidated because all you're doing is asking questions how to do it. And you're not going to get it the first time. I've been on Replit, which does everything for you easily. And I've been like, don't like that, throw that out and start it over again on stuff.
Yeah, that tends to
So
happen more, I've noticed, on Replit or Lovable, or they try to automate so much, but then I've noticed people tend to get stuck and like not quite sure what to do next. Whereas Cursor, it's a bit easier to kind of go through that debugging process, even if it takes hours and hours. Like eventually you figure out a solution.
I also tell people, I hear a lot from people in my comments, tell me how to make money off this. Tell me how to do this. My advice for that is you're going to have to use your thoughts in your brain and you're going to have to do things. Imagine just having the smartest person in the room and you're in a conference room, you're troubleshooting something and you're bouncing things off that person. That is what AI can do. This is a level ahead where it actually will, you ask it to do something. Imagine a developer just sitting right there beside you and saying, I would love for it to do this. And I would love for it to do this. And oh, I want this. If you use this though, don't tell it everything you want it to do, because then it starts to go, oh, I'm going to try to do everything. And then you're going to get lost. So you want to do one thing at a time, but it does get intimidating and it can get frustrating too, because you fail, but you have to just try it. It doesn't hurt a thing to try, but I imagine people watching this have things in their head they want to get out. And it's a creative outlet for me, as I think it is for a lot of people that have been able to create stuff just from scratch. So for me, it's just an outlet. So.
Given your progress so far, do you think you'll continue building all this alone, or do you foresee that you'll probably need to hire a technical person to help, like if it's growing in complexity? What are you thinking for the next couple of months with this app?
So for me right now, I plan on alone, not necessarily by choice, but my background in startups. It's not easy. If I can do this, then one, I can prove to myself, but two, I'm not wasting a lot of time and money. Now, I will say this has gotten more complex. It's a lot of code. It does get more confused, which then makes me more confused. So once it gets bigger, it's harder to manage. That's where I'm getting kind of stuck at. So would I love to have someone on board? Yes. Do I want to spend the time doing it? I don't know that yet. If I get to a point where I just can't, then that's my only option.
Yeah, it's definitely a known problem, like larger or existing or legacy code bases. Like AI still has a really tough time. The next level you might like after Cursor is called Aider.chat. So a lot of more senior technical folks I know tend to prefer that one, just higher code quality. Gets less confused, in other words. But I do love Cursor because it's just such a user-friendly interface, even if you're not technical or you're like pseudo-technical, like you have some technical understanding, but you're not hands-on coding. It's just a very intuitive experience. And I started using it before it had Composer. So I was like sitting there building my MVP of Blotato, and I'd have to like create a new file because it wouldn't do that automatically. Then, apply each change, apply each change, apply each change.
I did that initially. Yeah. Now that it has agent, it's a game changer.
Yeah. So it's just really cool to see how far it's come. This was probably in late August when I filmed my YouTube series using Cursor AI. And then Composer, I think, was a beta feature, but I wasn't sure how to enable it yet. And then someone dropped a comment like, oh, here's how you enable it. And that was a game changer. Really crazy how quickly the AI coding space is all evolving.
Yeah, no, it's insane. And Lovable and the other products are really nice, but it's because they turn out something so pretty so fast. I think that's what's enticing to people. But the functionality standpoint, you have to build a social media app. Oh my gosh. You don't think about tagging. You don't think about the rich text on when you have hashtags. You don't think about a drop down to pick the right person on selections when you're tagging someone.
There's
So
so many things. Yeah.
so many just little intricacies. So that's where it gets really difficult. And you get stuck on just trying to fix. Sometimes I've had to walk away and say, you know what, I'm throwing that one out. I'm going to focus on this right now. So the infrastructure's there. It's building that UI, the user interface now over it. That's becoming a little tough, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah, no doubt you will. I'm really, really excited for your journey. And thanks so much for joining me on my podcast. Any closing words for the audience?
I think I said it earlier. You really need to have a good basic understanding of artificial intelligence and how you can make that applicable in your life, whether that's your work life, but however you can make things easier that are repetitive tasks for you is something you probably need to start learning how to do. And automation as well, but as we're seeing coming out, Zapier and Make.com might become less and less relevant as the agents start to do things for you.
All right, love it. Yeah, thanks so much again for joining my podcast.